suggests that by raising interest rates, not only do we slow down the economy, but we make lending more expensive. And when lending is more expensive, we know that corporations that are dependent upon the banks for lending will end up finding that they have to start to decrease their employees. And so layoffs become almost mandatory in order for corporations and banks to be able to have a balanced budget, number one, and a balanced balance sheet. And so we also know that the central banks were suffering staggering losses. And we see things like the Federal Home Loan Bank borrowing, about 250 following the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. And so we're seeing something unprecedented. These moves by feds and Treasury has never been seen before. And so we have to kind of really look at that. And we've been talking about this for such a long period of time, but now it's finally coming into play. And so we're able to experience and witness and say, hey, look, we've already seen this, we've talked about it, and now it's in play. So, we first saw that the feds should not have intervened with Silicon Valley Bank, mainly because it was a liquidity problem. And so when it's a liquidity issue, what needs to happen is that the banks need to raise money. And if they raised the money, they would have weathered through the storm. Of course, there was large deposits that were coming out of the bank, causing the liquidity problem. But what happened was that the regulators intervened a little too quickly. And because of that, they chose to rewrite the regulation to ensure depositors above 250,000. So we're changing regulation and rules, causing more systemic problems by saying that anything above 250,000 will now be insured. And the real question that we have to understand is, how do we determine that when this is not a rule? This is who chooses whether this bank fails and this bank survives. And there's no clear-cut math or regulation that describes how they're going to handle this should there become more liquidity issues within the banking system. So I think that poses a pretty large problem for us